Buju Anini Ajay Ayan Nemanuyoya. And I'm so sorry to whoever just listened to that. That was Ojibwe, given to me by Cody Graham, round 7 of Worlds. It means hello, how are you doing today? And to my knowledge, this is a Minnesotan, I guess, native language of some sort. I'm not too familiar. This is what I was told, so don't shoot me if I'm wrong. Welcome back to the podcast. I am back from my deep 3-flight, 25-hour slumber that prevented me from recording gear shit for the first time in 10 months. So it was a tough one. But Ciaran held down the fort. It was an awesome episode last week. I'll be honest, I did not listen to it because like when your team's playing, you don't even want to watch. It's 100% one of those. So y'all did a great job, I'm sure. I hope all y'all watched and enjoyed it. Ciaran, how was the episode?
I thought it was good. I think it was one of our most informative, in-depth episodes that people were trying to learn. Shame on you, Aneil, for not listening. I feel like you could have learned something.
That's crazy.
Jack finished higher than you, so go back and watch it after.
Fair enough, bro. Fair enough. That was a solid 20 spots between me and him, actually. It's definitely informative without me there taking it off topic. So I'm hoping everyone enjoyed that. We have these things still. This will be the last week that we can get these made and deliver them to you at Baltimore. I will personally bring them to Baltimore and hand deliver it for you if you want one. The link will be in the description. Just put it in the order notes or just message one of us, say, hey, I need this for Baltimore. We're going to have all mans in the shift gear hats in Baltimore. I'm wearing my Pokemon Center Tatsugiri hat that's honestly kind of fire. So we're styling today, and I'm hoping to see every man styling in Baltimore. So what we have for you today is a Baltimore tier list, so to speak. It's basically the world's format tier list, but we'll say it's Baltimore. We have all the major-ish and major decks on here. Some interesting ones like Lost Box Charizard that might not be as popular, but we'll go through everything. We were not able to rename this tier list, unfortunately, so our D tier is actually D tier, which is very, very unfortunate. Ciaran tried really hard to rename it to our favorite city. What's our favorite city, Ciaran? I forget.
It's Peoria, Illinois, Aneil.
Oh, I love Peoria, Illinois. I love that place.
I'm heartbroken. I'm still gonna go back.
I'm gonna go to my deathbed and say that there's a worse city in Ontario called Brampton, but Ciaran doesn't agree.
No, Brampton's way better.
Nah, Brampton is ass, bro. But here we are. So all right, Ciaran, let's just get into it, bro. Because apparently I'm not content focused enough for the masses. So you take it away.
Cool. Yeah. So we had Worlds happen. I think Worlds is definitely a big shakeup. I think we saw the aggressive decks really come out of Worlds, honestly, as the big winners, and I think that's the biggest thing that's going to shape our format. So, I think a lot of the established decks that we thought were going to do well in Worlds kind of flopped. Decks like Charizard, decks like Lugia, deck like Gardevoir. So I actually really do think the meta is going to be quite different in Baltimore than what we saw at the World Championship. We saw 25% Regidrago. I don't know if we'll see that again. We saw 12% Charizard, 11% Lugia, 10% Guardian. And then we saw kind of the Miraidon, Roaring Moon, Raging Bolt. They were all kind of up and down in meta share, but I think those decks especially, we're going to see their meta share pop up. So, there's actually this cool new feature too on Trainer Hill where you can put what you think the meta percent is going to be for a deck too. So we can try this as well, see how close we get.
That's kind of cool. All right, that's kind of cool.
What actually happens.
Yeah, because we always say it out loud, but we never really quantify it fully against each other. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. So shout out Trainer Hill, bro. Always innovative.
Yeah.
So we starting with Zard. We want to do that?
Yeah, let's start. Or let's start with Regidrago actually, because I think Regidrago is probably the deck in this format right now. Everything centralizes, I feel around this one. Was the most popular deck at Worlds. So, Aneil, I'll start with you. Is Regidrago in the S tier for this tournament still?
Am I crazy if I say no?
I don't think you're crazy, but
because I think I'm saying no. I think it's an A tier. It's good. A lot of us played it at Worlds, right? It had a really high meta percentage, and that's because it's Worlds, bro. Everyone always veers to the top deck, and this is always how it's been. So I think Drago, if you even look at the at the tier list for now, that they release on Twitter, I forget who releases it every week. Is it Justin Basil?
Might be. No, yes, they do the ranking thing, and then PokeHive,
the weekly power rankings.
The PokeHive does the win rates against each deck.
It's even tanking down that right now because there's a lot of random hate towards it. I've seen a lot less people actually playing it as well. So I'm gonna say it's A tier. I think it has the possibility to win the tournament at any point. It's the highest A tier could possibly be. I'm not entirely convinced, and this might be a bit of a spoiler, but I'm not entirely convinced there's an S tier deck right now. I think Drago was the S tier deck for Worlds, but I think right now there's a lot of hate kind of going around. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it is like the best deck in a vacuum, but there's too much hostility towards it right now. I think every single deck people play, like they play with Drago in mind. And like we're going to discuss, I think a lot of the aggro decks are going to go up and play, which Drago does struggle against on paper. But just from playing a lot of Drago myself, like I just feel like Drago can even beat its bad matchups, like honestly, like 40% of the time.
100%.
There's nothing my opponent flips over where I'm like, okay, like I can't win this matchup. So I still think it's that good. I don't think it's clear S tier because I don't actually think you have many favorable matchups on paper. You just have a bunch of like 45, 55s, 50, 50s. And then if you're a strong player, I do think you can navigate through a lot of those matchups. So I still think a lot of the best players are going to play Drago. It does seem like it's that type of deck that a lot of top players are gravitating towards. And I do think just people in general like playing the deck. So if I had to give my guess for the meta share, I don't think it's going to be 25%. Since I think at regionals, there's more people playing their like pet decks and just like random stuff. I'm going to guess an 18% meta share for this deck, Aneil. What do you think?
I have 15.
15?
I think it's going down.
All right, so we'll split the middle.
The reason why I think it's going down as well is because like there is a bit of a, I don't want to say a skill gap with it, but I think people are starting to realize that the mirror can be skillful, and so I think there's a lot of people that might be kind of getting torn off this if they're not one of like the most experienced Regidrago players in the field. It like did show a little bit at Worlds too that the best players that piloted it, like Ian Robb, like did crazy things with it because he's such a good player and he's so experienced with it. And yeah, I realized what I said after I said
he did go crazy at Worlds.
Yeah, he did. He did do some crazy things. But Broski was prepared, and he kind of is one of those S tier decks where if you're like prepared, you can outskill most of the other people playing it too. So I'm not going to do what he did, but shout out to Ian Robb.
Nice. So yeah, I'm going to put 16.5%. So I'll split them at difference on what you and I said. But I think Aneil, I think for sure most popular deck. Do you think that?
I agree. Yeah. There's been a time in the past, I forget when it was, I think when Guardy was dominating, where we all thought, Guardy number one for sure, and Charizard ended up being the number one. So I wouldn't be entirely surprised if that happened. I think it's between that and Charizard, but probably the number one deck.
Yeah, that was so funny. Where like randomly Charizard did well at one tournament, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, Charizard just default 15% meta share the rest of the format. No matter
people
what.
Like their fire lizards, bro.
Yeah. So, okay, speaking of the Fire Lizard, let's talk about Charizard next. I think Charizard was probably the biggest disappointment at the World Championships if I had to hand that award out. Besides Tord, I don't think it had any other spots in the top 16. I think my issues with Charizard right now are, one, it obviously has a bad Regidrago matchup. Even with like the Rabaska and all that, I don't know if the matchup's even like 50-50 still. And it seems like we've like kind of trended towards where Charizard decks like feel like they're almost inconsistent now. Like it just feels like people are playing like a crazy amount of tech in their deck. We're seeing Charizard line getting dropped to 2/1/2. We're seeing like 5 fires getting put in the deck. So it definitely feels like the deck is being built very different than what we're used to. And it doesn't feel like that consistent deck that it once was, but it's still super powerful if you get going. And we did talk about how the aggro decks did kind of dominate Worlds, or at least the top cut of Worlds. And Ancient Box, which we will get to, has been getting like an absurd amount of hype for this tournament. So I do think Charizard is in a good spot in the meta. I think a much better spot than it was at Worlds. And I do think Regidrago, like we said, will probably see a lower play rate than Worlds. So I'm actually pretty bullish on Charizard for this tournament. I actually think I'd probably put it like an A tier, just because I think it's going to take advantage of our expected metagame here.
This has been the deck I've been testing the most actually since I got back. I haven't been back for long, in all fairness, but I did play one Friday night event. I've been testing a lot of Zard. Like I'm bullish on this too because what happens, and we see this so often, is the counter of the counter is your friend, and sometimes the counter of the counter is beat by Charizard Pidgeot. So I think there's a lot of weird stuff going on. I think Charizard does really, really good into this field of like random Ancient Box, random aggro, and as we've discussed before, like especially with a big first regional of the year, you're gonna have a lot of like players who are coming out for the first time in a while, like a lot of casual players, a lot of people who are very just gonna be like, hey, I just want to play something aggressive and have a good time. And I think as well the new like rules with advancing to day 2 and stuff, and kind of disincentivizing ties, I'd say. Like I think that kind of favors more aggressive decks as well. So Zard might have a field day, and so I'm gonna. I was gonna say S tier. No, put it in A tier.
No, I don't think it's definitely not S tier because it loses the most popular deck. But Yeah, I think it's A tier for this specific tournament. So, what's your meta percent prediction?
I want to say 14.
14. That's what I was gonna say. 12. So, all right, more like 13 then.
So 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are lines you can take into Drago, which makes it not favorable but better, and I think people are starting to learn that.
It's winnable. Like, it's not like free for Drago by any means, but it's definitely not like if your opponent flips with Regidrago, you're definitely not like super excited.
Yeah. And there are cards like that help too. Like I don't mean to like give away everything I've ever done in my life, but I've been toying with Roxanne a lot. Roxanne's been helping a lot. Instead of playing Unfair Stand, you play Roxanne in Hero's Cape. And you can make some very interesting board states. And it actually has felt like it helps the Drago matchup a lot. So there are cards you can play in Charizard Pidgeot that are not named Rabska that might help you without having to jank a TM Evo into your deck. So I think there's a lot of potential for that.
Because Hero's Cape, how many energies? You need 5 on an Ogremon to knock it out, or?
5, a 7. Lot.
It's 7.
It's 5 because 3 plus 2 is 360, and then you need an extra.
Yeah, you're 10 off if you have 6. Yeah. So that's actually kind of crazy.
Good luck, Ogremon.
So I think Charizard's in a good spot. I personally I don't play Charizard normally. I don't know why. Like, it's a stage 2 deck, which is normally my type of deck, but I'm more of a Gardevoir guy myself. But I definitely think Charizard's poised for success.
And if anybody's like upset that Charizard's not good right now, just wait till these like Turtlemans and Briar come into the format. It is Charizard is ridiculous with Briar. It's so good.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because literally right before I talked to you, I saw a tweet from Jake Gearhart being like, "Oh, you can go from 4 prizes to like win with Briar,
it's crazy.
Charizard."
Yo, Stellar Crown's been pretty good to me though, and I know people are not happy with me for this, but it's been pretty good for me. So
yeah, you pulled the alt art and the full art of the what's it called, Terrapagos?
2 alt arts and a gold.
Sell those, man. Why are those still on hand?
No, they're on eBay, but they're nice, man. Like I think this is the nicest card I've ever seen. I feel like this might be one of those cards that goes crazy in the future. Like when Tina V alt came out, it wasn't that expensive, and then randomly it just went crazy. So I don't know, like, and I hate being that guy. I hate going to the pre-release and they're like, "Yo, look, that guy got an altar." I hate being that guy, but it just like they just kept coming, and I was like, "All right, like cool, like I guess I'll take it." But now I have the dilemma of like, do I sell? Do I keep? What do I do?
I'll keep one alt art maybe.
Maybe keep one alt art.
Did you put it in your pre-release deck, or no? You're like, I don't want to shuffle with this.
No, I played it. I riffled it.
Both of them?
So I pulled one of them after the pre-release in like the bonus packs.
Okay.
And then I have this gold one that's worth like 120, and I was riffling the hell out of this one. And eventually, like my opponents were just like, "Yo, put the top loaded one in your deck." I was like, "All right, bet." So I played with this thing in a top loader, and like anytime I drew it, it was just it's so funny. I love pre-releases, man. They're so fun.
I haven't played in a pre-release. I think I've mentioned this before on the pod. I think in like 10 years. So maybe I need
to go
crazy,
play bro. One. It's the most like fun way to play Pokemon. It's so like authentic and raw.
Yeah, maybe I'll go. I mean, Banana Games always has them. They have like midnight pre-releases sometimes. So maybe I'll go to the next one that they do.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, back to our tier list though. Let's pivot to the actually no, let's do Gardevoir next. So let's go themed. So we'll go with the evolution decks first. So Gardevoir I think is in an interesting spot. It's similar to Charizard where like I think it kind of flopped Worlds because its Drago matchup is just suspect. And now that we see some of these aggro decks getting better, I think Guardy has a chance again. It's pretty strong into Raging Bolt. Despite weakness, it's pretty strong into Roaring Moon. It's like not super strong into Miraidon just because they have hands. And then like its Charizard matchup is like fine as long as you're playing Devolution. So I think Gardevoir is in a decent spot. If people start playing Iron Thorns, like that's a free matchup too. I just think Gardevoir, it's a little inconsistent sometimes, and I don't think its matchup spread is good enough for me to say it's A tier. Like I'd probably put it at the top of B tier if I had to pick a spot for Gardevoir. Yeah,
Gardevoir is really confusing to me too. Like it felt really strong, and then it didn't feel strong, and then it started feeling strong again. Like it's really all over the place. I think it's like a high B tier as well. I think there is potential that it does well, right, with all these aggressive decks, but it's so weirdly like placed in the format that it's hard to really get a grasp on what it's going to do, and I think that kind of steers top players away from it too.
Yeah, I think we also saw like one Drago obviously becoming popular. Was a nerf from it, like talking about why it fell from S tier and pre-Shadow Favorite. Well, then Pheasantipity also just is like a lot harder for the deck to deal with. Like Unfair Stamp loses some value. Iona loses some value. Because a lot of Gardevoirs, you need like normally like one turn where you stick your opponent with like a brick and you like Scream Tail or just they don't take a knockout or Gust. So yeah, I just think Gardevoir is like it's solid. lots of really good matchups. A good pilot takes it really far. I don't think I feel comfortable putting in A tier just yet, but I think it's like right on the cusp. And like it's one of those decks where like if it goes in top 8, I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised that it made top 8 at all.
I concur.
Yeah, so I'm gonna guess 9% meta share. What are you gonna guess, Aneil?
It's 7, so let's go 8.
Okay, 8. Nice. Okay,
dude, I'm still like not used to wearing buckets anymore. It feels so weird. Like I've been hatless for like a week now since I got back because I kept wearing them in Hawaii, and like this just feels like so weirdly like uncomfortable now.
Actually, Neil,
I'm almost like, what's up?
I was gonna tell the story about your banana bucket hat.
Yo, this is so sad, bro. This guy just ruined my whole night by reminding me. So me, Ciaran, and Elaine, we go to this beach. Okay, this lovely green sand beach, one of 4 in the world. Quite the spectacle. At least it's supposed to be, and it's olivine engraved sand or some next level thing that's supposed to get tourists out. Anyway, so we start walking, and we get to the beach about an hour later. It's hella hot. Men are sweaty, and I go sit down. Yeah, here we go. We got it on the screen right now. This is the green sand beach. As you can see, is not. This looks greener than it was.
It's like olive, if I had to guess. If I had to say, like this. Yeah, this color-ish.
It's like too beigey for me to call it green. But anyways, so we get to this beach, and then can you get a picture of like the cliff on the side? I don't know if you. Is that the cliff? That might be the cliff. This is the cliff,
like right here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm sitting like down. Ciaran, maybe you hold your cursor over it. The other side, on the left side, where those rocks are.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there. I'm going through my Polaroids, and I feel this like random gust of wind. I'm like, all right, whatever, right? Like I'm just holding my hat. Cool. I start to go through my Polaroids, and then a next gust of wind comes, and suddenly I look up. 20 feet in the air is my banana bucket hat, like the original banana bucket hat. 20 feet in the air, just like flying through. So tell me how it lands on the side of this cliff, like kind of over to the right of where Ciaran's cursor is right now, on the top there. And you're looking at this cliff on Google Images, and you're like, all right, this is kind of like a steep cliff, right? Like it should just kind of fall down. It got stuck, bro. It got stuck on the cliff, like face down, and it wouldn't come down. Me and Ciaran have been throwing rocks at this thing for like half an hour, trying to get this damn thing down. And it eventually the wind picks it up, takes it to the right, and I'm like, okay, sick. Like we just need the wind to die down, it'll fall down. What does the wind do? Pick it up and go even farther right. So now I'm like fighting for my life here, and trying to get this hat down. And like half an hour later, I'm like, all right, I give up. I legit just give up. And I was depresso for like a solid hour after that. That was like it's like losing your like childhood toy. I've only had it for like 6 years, but it's been through thick and thin, man.
Yeah, Aneil was very quiet on the walk. It was like an hour walk back to the car because you had to like hike all through the sand dunes type thing here. I was really sad for Aneil. We really did try for like a long time to save the hat.
Oh, we did. Yeah. For a $10 hat, we put in hella work, man.
Yeah. It was just like, it was so far. It was in such a bad angle where you literally needed we needed Patrick Mahomes or something to come help. Like,
I hit it on the head one time, but it didn't do enough to like really get down. I was considered climbing this thing. I'm like, this thing might be worth my life. Like this is this banana hat's been through everything with me, bro. I bought it from like some random lady in like a vendor shop at one of like the Taste of Scarborough events in Toronto. Like it was like the most jank thing ever. It's my first bucket hat. I was like, I don't really wear these, and it invited me to the life of these beauties. So RIP the banana bucket hat. Now we have these beautiful shift gear bucket hats. Of course, they're not the same, but I mean, it'll do for now.
It'll do. We'll get you another banana hat. Or maybe we'll make a banana shift gear hat.
Yo, honestly, good idea.
That could be a future design. So, all right, back to our tier list, Aneil. Let's talk about the aggro decks next, because we kind of alluded to them a little bit when talking about the other one. So let's start with the one that was the most popular at Worlds. Let's talk about Raging Bolt. The one made top 8 at Worlds. I think there's a couple more in top 32. So where do you think Raging Bolt's kind of positioned in the metagame right now?
I think it's kind of fallen a little bit. You like my banana I got on the top here, by the way?
Nice.
Kind of sick, right? Shout out Banana Games, bro. They're good guys. So I think Raging Bolt is kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit to these other aggressive decks. I still think it has a very promising place in the meta, but it is a little like, I don't know how to describe it. It's a little like kind of all over the place. Like some games you hit Sada, it feels so good, and the next game you don't see one, you're like, this deck sucks. So I think a lot of like Raging Bolt players, at least the ones that I know, are kind of pivoting to other sort of aggressive decks. So it's I think it's a solid B tier, but I don't think it's much higher right now.
Yeah, I mean, of the 3 aggressive decks, I actually think it's pretty good because it's actually very heavily favored into Miraidon, which I do like. Obviously, like you're farming Regidrago, which is the most popular deck. I actually think his Charizard matchup is like much better than it used to be, just because of Pheasantipity. Literally, that card makes it so much easier to stream knockouts on them. I was even gonna say it's like low A tier in my opinion, but you think it's solid B?
I think it's solid B. I think out of the 3 aggressive decks, you have the best matchup into Drago, which is worth something. So we can go to A if you want.
Yeah, I'd say like bottom of A tier for me. I think it's actually really solid. I think it's well positioned. The one thing holding back is its Ancient Box matchup is pretty poor, which we'll get to. And then
the deck is just so linear. That's my beef with it. Like with like Miraidon and with like even Turbo Moon, you have a little bit of counterplay. It feels like with Bolt, it's like it is so painfully linear sometimes.
I feel like Moon is just as linear.
You have like the Baby Moon, you have Pekaron. Like, you can do cool things with it.
I mean, but at the end of the day, it's still like a 2-prize beat stick deck.
Yeah, but they're not all the same though. I feel like this one's definitely more linear. Like I love Ogremon, bro. Ogremon's my dog, but I still can't really like get behind this whole thing.
The reason I like this one the best of the aggro decks, I think it's the most consistent of the 3 aggro decks too.
Really?
At least from my experience, I find this one's more consistent than the other ones.
It's interesting.
So, I don't know.
I would argue you're probably on the right track. I think Moon might be a little bit more consistent because you have Dark Patch and Sada.
Yeah, but you need to hit Dark Patch and Sada to attack turn 1 with that version. I mean, they're honestly pretty similar in consistency, so...
Yeah.
I don't know. We can put it... we'll put it at the top of
A is fine, dude.
Okay, we'll put it bottom of A.
Whatever lets you sleep at night.
I mean, I won't lose any sleep on what tier we put Raging Bolt in, bro.
Yo, I lose bare sleep over a lot of things.
Okay, I'll put a high B then.
If my favorite deck went to Peoria tier, it's over.
Bro, my favorite deck might be in Peoria tier, so...
Yeah, low-key it might.
All right. Okay, I'll put this high B for now, and then at the end I'll see if I want to push for it to go higher. How about that?
Sure.
Okay. What percent do you think? I think the percent's gonna be pretty high.
I think the percent's low because all the Agromans have like 3 choices now, so like dilutes.
Okay, so give me a number.
4.
4%? And there's no way this is 4%. Are you serious?
I hope I'm wrong.
I was gonna say 12%.
12?
Yes.
All right, bro. Give us a solid 8.
Bro, 4%? There's no way.
Yo, give me 4%.
This deck literally, like at Worlds, where like people don't like playing decks like Raging Bolt, it had like 11%.
I am sipping my haterade.
All right. I think 4% is blasphemous, but all right.
It is blasphemous. But when people do these talk shows, like you think of like First Take or any of these sports talk shows, there's always one like outlandishly stupid man who has to be like a character for the show to do well.
Yeah.
Like think of Stephen A. Smith, right? Half the time, I bet he says things he doesn't believe.
I'd say most of the time he probably says that.
Yeah. He's not. He's a pretty smart guy, but he doesn't come across like that on First Take. So sometimes you need some outlandish takes, bro.
Bro, did he ever film his crossover with Wolfie? Because remember, like he's like, "Oh, Wolfie, like we're gonna contact you about like Pokemon on Twitter."
Bro, what? I just saw him talking about Mewtwo one time, and I was like, "I'm turning this off."
You know who Wolfie is, right?
Yeah, of course.
So one time Wolfie was like, "Yo, if you need a Pokemon expert, like please hit me up," and it got like thousands of likes. And Stephen A. Smith was like, "Oh, we're gonna hit you up."
That's crazy.
So,
yo, imagine being on First Take as like a Pokemon man. That's like the guy who got to see the Colombian president, or sorry, Venezuela, right?
No, Chile.
I'm so bad at this. Okay,
yeah. Not just the champion got invited. Every player who made day 2 from Chile got invited to.
That's
to
pretty sick, dude. That's pretty sick. Honestly, like as soon as Worlds was done, because I was in Hawaii for another week, like I didn't look at Limitless or anything, and like still to this day, I haven't looked properly through Limitless of what did well. So please excuse my what's the word? Misnationalizing whatever of what I just did. I didn't mean it. Chilean people, y'all are sick. Love y'all.
Yeah, we love Chile, even though we've never been. I do want to go one time. So
I said Venezuela. I heard they have some gas problems in Venezuela. So I got
gas problems.
Yeah, apparently mans were like bartering at the gas station because like their currency is so weird. So they would like bring items to the gas station and like trade with the clerk. Like this is what I was told by my Venezuelan boys. So I don't know. This might be cap.
I mean, I'll look it up after. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yo.
I saw like a short video of a man like bringing like a PS5 to a gas station, but that was definitely just like a meme snippet.
Do you think if you were I1 Worlds, do you think we could get invited by Trudeau to the Parliament building?
Bro, if I got invited by that guy, I'd have so much to say, and not much of it would be positive.
Oh, bro, I would go.
I'd go, yeah. Like these guys who hate like Trump go to the White House, right? Like they all went.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't think we'd be invited because like it's not as cool if a Canadian has won Worlds because we have done it a couple times.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
All right, maybe I'll settle for like an invitation from Olivia Chow. I'll go to City Hall in Toronto.
Dude, she's so funny, man. That's the mayor of Toronto, by the way, for all y'all who
Yeah.
don't know. She's like, you go to like any Toronto festival
She's
and there's
there.
girls in like festive clothing, like whining on the stage. It's so funny. I respect it. I really do.
No, I think like it's actually like I admire how much she's like involved in all her communities. It really does feel like she's at everything. So I'm like, damn. Like honestly, like I wouldn't be surprised to see her pull up at Toronto Regionals, bro.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah. There's so many people
I'll
that hate
invite
on
her.
it, but I like it.
I'll
You should invite her.
her.
Link her, bro. I met her like I don't know, like a month ago or something at like Taste of Danforth. She seems chill, man. I like it. People are like complaining, like, "Yo, do your job," but I'm like,
That is
she's
her
not gonna be
job,
sitting
bro.
in City
Yeah,
Hall
yeah.
on Friday night. Like, let her bust a wine at Caravana, bro. It is what it is. Let her live.
Yo, what deck do you think Olivia Chow would play?
Yeah, Olivia Chow. I don't know. She's kind of antsy, bro. Like she seems like she's like itching with she's bursting with energy. I got Turbo Roaring Moon.
Yeah, our next deck on the list. Where would you put this in the tier list? Where's Olivia's deck going?
Is she playing it or not?
I think she could play that. I could see her playing this.
S tier. Put it up there. No, I got it a B tier, bro.
I think it's in B tier as well.
Yeah.
I think it's really solid. It's very consistent, which I like, but it's just very linear. Which like is basically its downfall, right? But
yeah, I think the whole like doing 200 yourself is such a painful thing sometimes, and with Pekarunt like switching you out. So I did this at Worlds actually. I won a game off of using Fade Out with Spiritomb because he poisoned himself with the blow up attack.
Yep.
So he did 200 plus poison, so 210. Fade Out with Spiritomb 220, and I was able to go into a Cleffa, and they couldn't gust around it. So there's a lot of weird plays that people can pull off. So like Charmanders with like Heat Tackle. I know no one's playing that, but you have the other Charmander now, and you can even use like Pidgey. You can gust for 20 and it gets knocked out. So there's so many like weird caveats with it, and I think that's probably the downfall of the deck.
yeah, against like other like 2-prize decks, like you don't really care doing 200 to yourself just because there's so many targets on the board. But yeah, like the thing that like I'd say differentiates it from Raging Bolt is like, yeah, like you said, like you have Dark Patches, like you have the built-in switch. So I guess like if you're concerned about Snorlax or something, your matchup's better. I think Raging Bolt is probably slightly better than Turbo Moon in my opinion, but they're all similar, I think, in terms of play rate. So
yeah, I think it's fine too. Like, it's hard to differentiate them at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who used to enjoy playing Roaring Moon, maybe they'll come back to it. So I could see it being similar meta share to Raging Bolt. I'm gonna say like my guess is gonna be like 7%.
Yeah, let me get a 6.
So
6.5. I'm trying to even out our
6.5.
numbers here. We got a 16.5 up there, so we got to even her out.
Or at the end, all our thing has to add up to 100, so we might have to readjust at the end.
Yeah. We'll do it. We'll
do some auditing at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so our last of the aggro trio, and we got Miraidon. Jesse Parker just took your top 4. I feel like everyone who plays Miraidon, I'm just going to assume they're just defaulting to his list. If I see someone flip over Miraidon against me. He did just lose his show match on his little stream yesterday against Ian Robb, which I'm sure you were tuned in for that, Neil. It's definitely what you were watching.
My god, I was from like the start to finish, I couldn't take my eyes off it.
Yeah, well, luckily I was also tuned in watching. It was pretty interesting. I think Ian showed some really neat lines you can take against the deck with Regidrago. So yeah, I think what separates Miraidon from the other aggro decks, I'd say it's less consistent and like it's harder to stream attackers. But I'd say its power level is higher just because you have Iron Hands as an option. You can use Forest Sealstone fairly effectively. So I feel like it's in B tier with the other aggro decks. I don't feel comfortable putting this one in A, I don't think. But what are you thinking, Neon?
I actually like it better than I like Bolt, and I like it better than I like Turbo Moon.
Okay.
I actually think the deck is really strong. The problem is, as soon as your opponent goes, I evolve to Regidrago V-Star, your game plan gets a little scuffed if you don't have Boss in your hand. So it can get a little sketchy, and like into the other like Turbo decks, you're also not too strong. You're okay into Moon, but against Bolt, it's tough. So I don't know. I think it's definitely B tier for me, but I think a good player like Jesse Parker can do more damage with this than they could do with like a Raging Bolt or
Yeah,
Moon.
I mean it's also not good to Charizard.
Yeah, it sucks in a Charizard.
So I mean, like you just said, it's bad into Bolt, Charizard, tweets that are popular. Drago is probably like slightly favored. Moon probably even. So yeah, I think it's solid, really solid. Again, it's another aggro deck. If you like playing Miraidon, keep playing Miraidon. I I do worry a little bit with if Charizard goes up in play and if Lugia goes down in play, which I think we'll talk about a little bit here in a moment here.
Yep.
So I think my guess for this one would also be like around 8%. What are you gonna say?
I agree.
8%. We finally agree on one.
Sure.
Nice. Okay, now next up we have, I think the deck that's getting the most hype in online tournaments. We have the Ancient Box. So it's kind of interesting. I think Ancient Box was probably underplayed at the World Championships. And this kind of just goes to show you how like metas can shift so dramatically and like it makes pathways for certain decks. So Ancient Box really struggles into Charizard and it struggles into Lugia. And I think both of those decks flopped at the World Championship. Lugia is next for us to talk about. I think we'll talk about why we think its meta share might go down a little bit. So its two worst matchups are kind of going down in meta share. But then honestly, like it's pretty solid into almost everything else in the format. So that kind of makes it into a spot where it's like, well, Ancient Box is pretty good. You dodge Charizard, Lugia, which isn't like outlandish to dodge, and you're probably sitting across some really good matchups most of the day. So I've been messing around with Ancient Box a lot lately. And I think the deck is actually really good. It does what it needs to do. Like it's fine to fall behind because against all these 2-prize decks, you just literally go counter catcher boss. Late game, like you can probably get enough guys or ancient cards in the discard to just blow something up. So, I think it's actually an A-tier deck. I don't know how you feel or if you've played with it yet.
I have played with it, yeah, and I played against it too. I think you're right. I think it's low A-tier. There's a lot of hype around it, right? And like we've seen this happen so many times where like if a deck like peaks too early, it gets countered to hell by the time the tournament comes around. So I wonder if this is one of those cases. It might not be because people don't think it's real, but if it does get a lot of hype, like Raging Bolt Ogerpon got a ton of hype before NAIC. I remember that specifically, and it peaked too early, and it ended up like really biting it in the backside. So yeah, I like Ancient Box. I think it's probably low A tier as well, but I don't think the play rate will be as high.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Ancient Box, it's actually not that easy to tech for. Like you could put Noivern and Regidrago, but like they play counter catcher, they can play bundle boss. It doesn't really do much. Noivern by itself is really hard to splash into decks. So you really just need like really bulky Pokemon the deck just can't take out. Like
my issue with Ancient Box is it's not slow, but it's slow to get up to big numbers, so it could be an issue with time.
Yeah, I mean my experience with it though is like it's pretty easy just to knock out like Squawks and Mews even from like turn 2, and then from there like you should scale enough on your next turn to take out like an Ogerpon or something, and then by the end like you should have enough time to knock out like a Regidrago or something. But like you said, it is very slow. It's a 1-prize deck, so the games that you're losing are going to take a while. Yeah, this deck is going to go to time a lot, which is definitely something to be concerned about with the new system we're moving towards here, where you have to go 21 match points. So you have to go 603 if you want to tie a game. So I still think it's really good. Its matchup spread is probably on paper the best out of any deck we've talked about so far. It just has some underlying issues with time, and it's a little bricky sometimes, I'm not going to lie. Like your turn 1s, it's actually very hard, I find, to get turn 1 attack if you don't start with Roaring Boon. So, but I think, I'm going to guess 10% meta share for this deck. It feels like it's very hyped, and people want to play
I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go 7.
We're back to the 8.5?
Back to 8.5. We're going to need another 0.5 here somewhere.
Sweet. All right, next up, we got Lugia. I think this deck did pretty mediocre at Worlds. Rahul took it to 9th. He played a pretty interesting build. He had like Raikou, Lightning, 1/1 Chinchino, which I thought was actually, and Fez, which I thought was probably the right way to play it. Like my list going into Worlds, like I was messing around with like a pure basic build, trying to be more consistent. I think his group kind of went best of both worlds. So I think people are kind of scared to play Lugia because they think Miraidon and Thorns did really well at Worlds. But to be honest, like I'm not really sure like how much those decks are going to see play. Like I don't think they're going to see like a crazy amount of play, right? And
I don't think so.
Like even if you pick up a few more percentage points in the meta for your bad matchups, like you're also picking up Ancient Box now, which is going up in play, which I think is a good matchup. You're still good into Regidrago, I think. So I think Lugia is actually fine. It's actually pretty good into the 3 decks we've put in A tier so far, and then it's like struggles a bit into the decks we put in B tier besides Roaring Moon. So I think Lugia is just solidly a B tier deck right now. It still struggles with consistency, and its matchup spread is quite polarized right now, I think, in my opinion. So I don't know if you disagree, Aneil.
I agree. There's nothing like flashy about Lugia. It's just kind of, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I got 5% on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go a bit higher. I was going to say like 8%. So
we got another 6.5. Let's go.
There we go. We're evening it out.
We're at 75%. These remaining decks are not going to take up 25%.
Well, but people
so
also play jank at regionals. Like the other can be high.
True.
We'll put something.
But we're not. We can't predict jank. That's the problem. Oh, we'll try. All right, let's go to Iron Thorns, the first deck in history that won a world championship that might not even be in B tier. Start her up.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Iron Thorns, like the cat's out of the bag now. It's like you said, it probably, in my opinion, is one of the weaker decks to ever win Worlds. I mean,
Mega Autono says hi.
Yeah, Mega Autono's up there. I think Beedrill is probably the worst deck that's ever won Worlds.
Yeah, Beedrill.
I think Team Magma, looking back on it, wasn't that good of a deck. People just didn't know what they were doing when they played against it.
I think that's it. Like, I can't think of another Worlds deck that was like legitimately bad.
I mean, like none of them were like bad, but they were just like definitely like tier 2, tier 3 type things. Where
I don't know if this goes above tier 2 for me.
Yeah, it's definitely not A tier. That's my opinion.
No, certainly not.
I mean, like it's maybe B tier. Like I don't know. Like if I look at the matchups,
for its life, man.
I think also people know how to play against it now. Like if people didn't practice against Iron Thorns before, like they've probably practiced against it now. Like I think every Regidrago player knows to like attack with Squawk. I think Ancient Box is like pretty 50-50 into it. Raging Bolt's pretty close. Moon beats it. Guardy beats it. But I mean, even then, like you still have solid matchup into Charizard. Like Lugia is still pretty much an auto win if they're not teching. Rhydon, I'd say, is probably slightly favored. So I don't know. I think it's still B tier.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Like bottom of B tier.
I personally think would put it in C tier, but if you want to, let's do B tier.
Really, you think C tier? Interesting.
I do think C tier because I think it's like you're right. The cat's out of the bag. Like it was cool, and like now people know what they're doing against it, and like I just find it hard to believe that a Thorns player is able to beat a skilled player of any of these decks up above.
Well, that's the thing about Thorns, though. It's like it's not really skill based if you beat it or not. It's based on what you draw.
No, but your opponent having skill is what I mean.
Yeah, but like if I'm playing...
Oh, you're talking about... Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, if I'm sitting across from Iron Thorns, it's like, when I go into it, I'm like, well, am I going to draw Cologne in the first 3 turns with Drago? Am I getting that motivate early on enough?
No, but what I'm saying is, like, people used to not know that. Like, people used to just, like, bench random things and, like, just try and go crazy. And, like, you bench one, like, extra Drago V, your game is basically over. Because they'll just, like, they'll boss it and it's stuck. So you got to know how to like play against it, and a lot of people were like putting out random like Pokemon on the field when they didn't need to, like stuff like that. And I think people kind of get it now. So I just find it hard to believe that more than 3 or 4 Thorns are going to day 2 Baltimore. Like that's just the way I look at it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I'm probably putting it in C tier. What's your meta guess?
I could be wrong, but I just think the cat's out of the bag, at least for now. And like it's one of those things that like where by the time the next turn comes around after Baltimore, like it might be good again.
Yeah, that's fair. It's one of those decks where it kind of needs to like bomb, and then like people just like forget about it, and then like comes back eventually when the meta shifts. So.
Yep, exactly. I got like 4% on this.
Yeah, I was gonna say 5. So we're back to the 0.5%.
Damn it.
Okay, next up we have Snorlax. I think Snorlax is another disappointment from Worlds. I'm actually kind of surprised that it had such a poor showing. I don't think the meta was like that bad for it or anything at Worlds. It just kind of flopped hard. So it picked up a new bad matchup in Moon, because I don't know how you beat Pekka Runt. But I mean, again, it's still fine into Drago. You're good into Charizard. Like Ancient Box is like, if they don't play Pekka Runt, it's winnable. Bolt is winnable. Rhydon's winnable. Guardy's winnable. Lugia's probably still bad. It struggles with time still, but I think Snorlax is fine. I think it's in a good meta position. I think Mimikyu and Cornerstone Ogerpon are both really well positioned in this format. So I don't know.
I leave for 1 week and this man started saying Ogerpon. That's crazy.
Ogremon, my bad.
Yeah, that's insane.
I think Snorlax is probably like high B tier for me. I could even see like low A, but I think it's definitely slept on.
Really?
Right, yeah, I think its matchup spread is still really good. And I think when you take it to a regional instead of taking it to Worlds, like people aren't as skilled. Like playing against Control is actually kind of difficult. You have to manage your resources. You have to know when to go aggressive, when to like disrupt, when to time your cards. So I don't know. I just think Snorlax is easier to play at these like regional tournaments because your average opponent is just weaker. So I feel like it's gonna have a bounce back. Like I predict like one's gonna make top 8 at Baltimore. Like,
damn, bro. I think there's just too many like polarizingly bad matchups on this spreadsheet for Snorlax to do well. Like I'm not saying it's C, but I feel like it's like mid B for me. I don't know. Like like even Drago, which is supposed to be a good matchup, like has a chance against you at all times. Like there's like Flutter mains randomly in random decks. There's random P.E.K.K.A runts around. Like you're losing to more random stuff than you ever have before. So I don't know, like that for that reason alone, I feel like it's going to turn a lot of people off of Snorlax stall. Also, is your mouse having a moment or what's going on?
What?
It's like jittering. Is that you jittering?
I don't know. Maybe it's me jittering. I think it's you jittering.
Jitter in the mouse, dog. All right, no, I like it. Keep going. But I think, I feel like for an average person, like you see that this meta game, and you're like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm not playing Snorlax. So I don't know. I'm gonna say 4% mid B, but if you want to put it higher, we can put it higher.
No, I was actually gonna say 4% as well. But yeah, I think I'll put it. I mean, honestly, everything in B is pretty similar. Like, I just put things randomly when we put them in the tier list.
Yeah.
Unless I say like bottom or specify. So
Ogremon at the top. I respect it.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have Dragapult. I feel like this deck is just like completely fallen off.
Send it to Peoria.
To Peoria? I don't. Is it quite Peoria tier? It beats Ancient Box.
It's gonna be good next set, I think. But I think right now there's
Trumpet?
Trumpet and Tree, both of them. Like I think right now there's just no reason to be playing Dragapult over Regidrago. Like if you want to attack with Dragapult, there is a way to attack with Dragapult that's much more efficient. I think the only way Dragapult comes back up above maybe C is if Charizard goes on a crazy run.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look, it's like good into Charizard and it's good into Ancient Box. So like, that's two of the decks we put in A tier.
It's not entirely impossible to beat Drago either. Like you can do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna put it in C tier.
I think C tier is fine.
I don't think it's Peoria. Like,
no, it's not. It's definitely not Peoria. I'm over exaggerating. I just don't see it doing much.
I'm gonna say like 2%. What do you think?
Do we need a 0.5? Yeah, I'm saying 1. Give it a 1.5.
Give it a 1.5. Yeah. Oops, not 0.5. 1.5. Yeah. I mean, the reason to play this is just because you have more health than Drago, and you can like have more single prizes on your board. But yeah. Okay, next up we have Golden Go. Actually, a decent amount of Golden Go's made day 2 at Worlds. I don't think it's that good. I think it's bad into Drago still. I don't know what its other matchups are like, but it's inconsistent
I don't
too.
think it's as bad as people think. I think I sat down Worlds Day 2. My round 1 was against Goldengo, and I was not expecting to see that. And I think it kind of caught me off guard because I was like, wait, this thing has 260 health. This is kind of annoying. But you obviously have Phantom Dive. You can kind of go around it. I'm not sure exactly how the Drago matchup goes, but I do know how the Zard matchup goes, and it can be kind of difficult sometimes for Goldengo to keep up.
No,
right?
isn't Charizard one of Goldengo's best matchups? I thought it's like one of the best.
You need 7 energies.
Yeah, but you also have the Cologne Greninja play. You can attack with
you do have Cologne Greninja. Yeah, and you have Palkia. Yeah, maybe it's a bit better than I remember it. All I know is I think it's slept on overall. So I think it's probably C tier. I don't think
it's C tier. I wasn't going to put Peoria tier. It's just the deck's really inconsistent too, which I don't like.
Yeah.
And like you can play Aroma, but then you're not playing Prime Catcher. Prime Catcher is so good.
So. I just find that the whole 50 times thing is so detrimental because even if you want to kill a basic V, it's 5 energies and it's so tough to
it's
get.
Annoying. You have to really scale it.
Yeah.
What's your guess percent?
Probably higher than Dragapult, maybe 3%.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 as well. So. Okay, next up, my favorite deck. Is it going to Peoria tier?
No, it's not.
I think it's good enough to dodge Peoria tier. I think I'm going to put it.
It's not going to Peoria tier. It's not that bad, man.
Yeah, it's going to C for Chen Pao, I think.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's in one of those weird spots where no one respects it. So maybe it's in a spot where it can do well. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's just the Drago matchup is so suspect, and then.
Yeah.
The problem I have with Chen Pao right now is all its matchups are either suspect or coin flips. Raging Bolt, don't start with 2-prizer. Rhydon, don't start 2-prizer and hope they don't hands turn 1. Turbo Moon, don't start 2-prizer. Right? Plus you have to pull off your setup turn 2, which isn't trivial with Chen Pao. It's pretty difficult sometimes. Lugia, same thing. You have to go get 2-prize knockup first, Snorlax, auto loss, Ancient Box, auto loss. It's 2 matchups here that I'm actually excited if someone flips over a Charmander, a Ralts, or I guess an Iron Thorns. The rest of its matchups just feel like too much is out of your control. I mean, unless you're Lucas, I find it hard to go on a far run with this deck.
Well, the problem was you can't start these 2-prizers, and then the only things we added are more 2-prizers.
Yeah, he added Palkia to the deck again, which I don't know.
And Fez.
Yeah, well, Fez is good, but you have to add that. But yeah, I don't know. Like with Palkia, it makes your turn 2 slightly better when you go first. Like you don't need to hit backs, and I guess you can have like checkmates in the game. I will say Fez is really nice because like if a Barrel goes down, like you can still have another one of Fez. So the deck like feels better to play. It's just like with Fez, but it's just like the meta is just not right for it. There's too much like random stuff that can target your bench, plus too much aggro. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. I wish it goes up. If it ever comes back to B tier, I'll probably pick up the deck again. But for now, I think we'll see Jared Grimes playing this, and then only the most loyal CPOW players. I guess I'm not one of them anymore.
That's
which is very
I was gonna
sad.
say. Yeah, it's tough.
I'm gonna say 2% because I do think people like this deck, but I don't think that's true.
Yeah, 2's fine.
Okay. What do we have left? We have Lost Box
All right,
decks.
near in the end.
Okay, we have normal Lost Box and we have Lost Box Charizard. I think Lost Box Charizard is probably better than Lost Box. I think Radzard's in a really good spot in the meta. I mean, against Bolt, against Miraidon, against Moon, basically all the turbo decks, it's really nice. I mean, Sableye is just a solid Pokemon. Like, I don't think anyone's playing Jirachi anymore, so you don't have to worry about that nonsense. I don't know, the deck is just like, it's still bad into Regidrago. You can play double Manaphy, but like, I don't know, I feel like that's still kind of cope. Like, they'll eventually just like get you a turn where you can't have both. So, I mean, like, Lost Box Charizard, I could see the argument for B tier. I'm probably going to say C tier. I don't know.
I'm surprised you say that, to be honest. Yeah, like I have it in C tier. I think the deck is good. It's just it's a victim of circumstances when it comes to like regional formats. Like best of 3 just doesn't suit it.
I mean, I'm not too concerned about the best of 3 part. Like, but yeah, I don't know. It's just it's inconsistent too, which I don't like when you play Charizard because you're not playing Greninja anymore. So you're trading that consistency for power. So, yeah, I think.
And there are versions of this deck that play Greninja with Bear instead. With like you play with Ursaluna and you kind of I don't love it. But like I do think the deck is better than what it's had so far. Like what it's been represented by so far. I don't know if it's B. I would even probably put it at the back of C personally, but yeah.
I don't know. If you had to tell me out of all these decks, which one's the most likely to make top 8, I'd probably say Lost Box Hard. I don't know.
Really? I wouldn't. I'd probably say like Power Thorns.
Yeah, maybe Thorns. Yeah, okay. Here.
I got 1% on this.
1%? I think 1% is fine. Sure. Okay, then what do you have for normal Lost Box?
Dude, this was my win-in for day 2 at Worlds. It was Lost Box. And, like, it actually was pretty good. I was a Japanese player who played it with Valiant and like a bunch of other like cool things. I think this deck is the most potential to play like random stuff like that and actually do well. So for that reason, I don't think we're banishing it to Peoria. I don't know if anything's getting banished to Peoria.
No, I don't think anything's in Peoria. We can make up a deck if we want, and we'll put it there. But
yeah, but like I think this deck actually has a lot of potential to catch people off guard because no one knows that you're playing. There's a lot of cool like 2/2 versions of it going around. I don't think the play rate's going to be high, but there's definitely potential for it to be good, especially if like Charizard is back. There's definitely potential.
Yeah, we can put it in like C tier, like, and then just say like it has potential because honestly, I have no idea how you're supposed to build this deck, but it is kind of crazy. Like it won NAIC, and the deck just had such a fall off like immediately.
And Ciaran is not that prevalent. Like, of course, it's in Drago, but like for Drago to pull off the Ciaran is not as easy as it may seem. Especially with the Cologne and the Prime and stuff. Like, if people are playing double Manaphy, like, there's a lot of weird things you can do to kind of derail this strat. So, I am surprised as well, like, how much it's fallen off.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know. I could even maybe see an argument for V tier, but I haven't played enough with it to, like, be confident. So,
I think between the 2 Lost Zone boxes, I'd probably say, like, 3%. So, this is probably a 2 for me.
Okay, so that's all the decks we had here, Aneil. We got to 93%. So, do you think there's enough jank to make up the other 7%?
There's enough jank to make up like 4%.
Yeah, I think maybe some of the decks might be like in the 10% range that we put maybe in the 8% range, but
I could see like I'm trying to look at that list and see what I could see going higher. I could see Zard going higher. I could see Ancient Box going higher.
I think Bolt, bro. I don't know how you think 4% for Bolt.
I still don't think Bolt's going higher than 8. You think it's going higher than 8? Maybe.
I think 10%. Maybe.
Sure, put it up to 10.
Yeah, 95.
I just think there's so many like varieties of decks for those style of players right now that like Bolt wouldn't be my first option.
Maybe. Especially
when the other one top 4'd Worlds. But yeah, we can do that. It's fine. And then we need 1% somewhere. We'll throw it on Ancient Box. I think that's a good horse to have in the race.
Sure. definitely feels like it has the most hype going to this tournament. So.
I mean, 4% of jank, and 4% of that is going to Peoria, baby.
Yeah, if we didn't mention your deck, it's in Peoria. Oh, you know what deck we forgot? Have you seen that the Banette deck that Henry Brand played?
Dude, it's kind of cool. I've heard a lot of hype about Banette right now.
Yeah, it seems. Here, we'll add it, bro. It seems like fun. I haven't played it yet, but it seems interesting. I sat next to him at Worlds and I looked over. I'm like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, like against Regidrago, like if you go second, like you need to flip heads on Shuppet's attack, or else you're gonna lose. You need to stop the E switch turn 2.
That's assuming they have everything they need turn 2, right? Like you never know.
Yeah. So I messed up all their mana percent now. It's fine. We're at the end. I'm gonna put it in C tier unless you're Henry Brand, then it can go D tier. But
sure, yeah, I like it. Yeah, there's a few mans talking to me about Banette, and I don't want to leak people's business, but I've heard a little bit of hype about this, so keep an eye out for Banette.
Yeah. All right, I think that's every deck we want to talk about, Neil. I think we reached a conclusion. It doesn't feel like there's a clear S tier deck in this format. I like what we put in the A tier, and I think there's lots of. I'd say anything like B tier up, like I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up winning the tournament. I think they're all really solid decks. It does feel like the meta is super wide right now. Like you can, like every type player should have a deck they enjoy playing. That's viable. Like we have like the aggro decks, we have like the more evolution slower decks, and then we have like the mid-range decks like your Lugia, your Drago, and kind of ancient box. So yeah, I think the format's still not the best, but I think it's fine. Lots of variety, which is a good and a bad thing. So
definitely one of the poorest formats we've had in a little while, but we've been quite spoiled in the last little while. Like, we've had some amazing formats. So
yeah.
Super wide, fun format. We're going to be back next week. We're going to talk about some Baltimore preview stuff. But this is a little intro to that, I guess. And I'm hoping after Baltimore weekend that we don't have to rename D tier Baltimore. But I don't know. Ciaran was reading me some stats earlier, and it was interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
And, we were going to go over our fantasy football teams on pod, but we don't have time today.
Do you want me to just do a quick at the end here? I have the tab.
Quick time. Let's go.
All right, now you can look at my team. The Fuego Pollos.
All right, let's see. You got Hurts, Purdy. Holy, bro. Pacheco. JJ down there. Okay. Sam Laporta. Interesting. Evan McPherson. You went high on the kicker. I like it. Baltimore defense. Interesting.
So I don't watch football. Just so everyone knows. This is me just using research and like vibes for who I pick on my team. So.
Did you get Nick Chubb low? Where'd you get him?
Yeah, I just like stashed him because they said he was injured. So I'm like, all right.
He's out till November probably.
My team seems good enough. They'll be good after. I think I drafted a couple of rookies because I'm like, all right, if these guys pop off, like that could be good for me.
Yeah, your opponent's team's looking pretty good too, though. I don't know. I'm kind of concerned for you. Geno Smith QB1's kind of tough, but
this is your team, and your team is horrible because you were auto drafting. Even I know.
Yeah. So for context, for everyone watching, I had another draft at the same time, and I prioritized the other one because it was like cash buy-in versus something that was free. So I ended up with I made the first few picks. So I made Anthony Richardson and Lamar Jackson. I think Anthony Richardson's going to come back and have a great year. Lamar's my boy. He got new weapons this year. I made Cooper Kupp. But then the rest of these mans, holy! I got sent to the lost zone with some of these guys. I got Kincaid on my team. I got C. Dicker on my team. Crazy name. Tampa defense, Jesus. We got Jordan Love, my dog. Shout out the Packers. Romeo Dobbs, that was also auto drafted, but that's my dog. Yeah. You know what? It's going to be a long year for me in this league, and I'm really happy that I auto drafted because now I have an excuse as to why my team is like 0-16.
All right, yeah. So if you watch football, let me know what you think of my team and Neil's team. They're good.
Yo, so here's a funny story, real quick as we walk off. So we were doing a draft with some of the Pokemon mans in Markham, and one man, I'm not gonna name names because like shout out to him, he joined the league anyways, and even though he didn't know football, but he didn't know you had to like draft position players. So his team ended up with 11 quarterbacks, and he's like, yo, like I only have 4 man starting. Like, why is the rest of my team on my bench? And he didn't realize that he needed to like get other position players. But Yahoo doesn't really realize that, and they gave him an A on his draft grade. And it says his cool team strives for mediocrity with strong draft performance, even though only 3 guys can start.
Yeah, and shame on your league for not letting him know that he didn't know what he was doing. That he had to draft the other
Honestly, I don't think anybody knew what they were doing, and I think that was the beauty of it.
Yeah.
There's also another man who doesn't have a quarterback because the first guy took all the quarterbacks.
Well, you know
So,
what?
like-
He could trade some of the QBs probably to round out his team.
Yeah, but like the guys he has are like complete jank. That's the problem. Like the first few guys, pretty good. Like I'm pretty sure I forget who he had. I think he had Kyler first overall,
Okay.
and then kind of fell off a cliff. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one because we have 3 QB slots in our league, which is honestly a recipe for disaster. It seems. So there's 12 mans, 3 QB slots. That's 36 QBs. When one man drafts 11 QBs, there's not a lot left in the depth charts. So it's going to be interesting.
Nice.
We'll see what happens.
Well, I won the fantasy football league last year, Neil, with an auto drafted team. So I'm.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to defending my title.
Very nice.
Yeah, maybe I'll watch some. I watch football because I just throw it on the background. I'm just like not super like engaged. Like I don't really know enough. About
I'm like
it, so.
counting down the days. Like I have 3 days until Baltimore, KC, and might call out of work that day. We'll see.
All I know is that Joe Flacco is the GOAT. He's an elite quarterback. Send him to the Hall of Fame, Neil.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's enough for this episode. All right, we're going now. Let us know your fantasy football sleeper picks below. Let us know your Pokemon sleeper picks below as well. Your deck choices, and we'll see you next week. I can't take any more of this Joe Flacco stuff. Peace.